Hey guys, Speedoz here, and today we bring you a new video about a volatile dead Spellslinger, a build that many people were requesting me to play during the Delirium League on stream, and they were asking me to play with the Impulses chest, a chest that helps you clear the packs with explosions. So I decided that I was giving a shot, considering this was going to be my last build of the league. So I tried to get as much HP as possible. And Volatile Dead is a skill that was very used in the past by using the Poet's Pen wand, and this time apparently it's very useful with the synergy it can have with the Spellslinger skill gem. Spellslinger was introduced in 3.10 Delirium League, and many people were using this skill because it has a very nice way to work with the skills when you use a wand, which I'll explain to you right now. So basically, this skill reserves mana based on the skills that you have linked to the Spellslinger itself, and also the support skill gems. And the more you have, the more mana it will reserve. So for this setup, since we use Volatile Dead, and Volatile Dead is a fire skill that consumes corpses on the ground, we need to have Desecrate. So one Spellslinger setup is about Desecrate, to spawn the corpses on the ground, and the second Spellslinger setup is about the Volatile Dead itself. In a way that once you attack with a wand, it will cast all the spells linked to the Spellslinger setups. So whenever we attack with our wand, we'll create corpses on the ground, and then the Volatile Dead orbs will be spawned based on the corpses that we've just spawned. So how did we make this build? It was a Necromancer level 91. For the Bandits, we've killed them all to get the 2 extra passive points. And at the Ascendancy, we will rush the corpse back to Ascendancy point. This is a huge quality of life for the build, because it gives us increased damage if we consume the corpse recently, 2 increased attack speed for each corpse to consume it recently. Enemies near corpses we've spawned recently are chilled and shocked. This is huge. And also our corpses that we spawn have 50% increased maximum life. This is an amazing Ascendancy point. It gives us increased damage, increased attack speed. All the enemies nearby, near the corpses, instantly get chilled and shocked, which is good for defensive and offensive layers speaking. And obviously, the corpses having increased maximum life increases the damage of the Volatile Dead explosion. So this is a huge Ascendancy point. You want to rush this point as soon as possible. Also, before that, we get the Plague Bringer. If we've consumed the corpse recently, we get increased AoE, while at least one nearby corpse we do 10% more damage, and nearby enemies have 10% reduced damage. The other Ascendancy point here, I usually get the Commander of Darkness, because especially if you are starting a league, you don't have that much gear on yourself. So with this node, we get a very nice and fat 30% elemental res, which is very nice. We also do increased damage and have increased attack speed by our auras. And also, last of all, Mistress of Sacrifice. Our offering skills also affect us, which we can benefit from the Bone Offering skill, for example. Okay, we also, on the tree here, the course that I took when I was leveling, the first node that I wanted was the Elemental Overload to increase our Volatile Dead node by a lot. Then we've got those nodes here to have some damage and also elemental res. Then we've rushed the Spiritual Aid to benefit from the increase in reductions to minion damage, also affects us. We get some reduced mana reserved because Spellslinger reserves mana, and this is very useful, especially when you're leveling. You also want to get some mana regen nodes here, and then all you want to do after that is to get some life nodes here, also up here, and then the last thing that I did on the tree was to get the Cluster Jewel nodes here, because they are basically min-maxing our build. All that we need while we are building our character is just life and block. So the block nodes are also here as well, and you will see where you're leveling. This node that I got also was one of the last nodes that I got on the passive tree. The jewels that we use, first of all, this is a regular jewel that gives us a spell damage increase at the maximum life, but most importantly, the chance to block spell damage while holding a shield. We can also have a reckless defense. The chance to block attack damage is not important because we can get plenty of this from our character, from our other sources, but the increased chance to block spell damage is the most important of it, so we get the maximum roll, which is 4%. And at this stage of the league, 1 week to Delirium end, no, 1 day to Delirium end, we got the Corrupted Blood, cannot be inflicted, so it was very cheap to get this jewel. Not necessarily, of course, but when I was building this character and I bought this jewel, we had 1 week to the end of Delirium, so it was cheap already. So just have in mind, this is a thing that you can upgrade for your build when you have enough currency. And then we come to the cluster jewels for the build. Some people use the cremation nodes to have some increased damage. It's really up to you. But in my case, I chose a large cluster jewel with 8 passive skills at maximum, increased elemental damage with Doriani's Lesson, Sadist, and 2 jewel sockets. The Doriani's Lesson helps us with some elemental damage leached as life, giving us also increased elemental damage, and Sadist is very nice for some increased elemental damage once we've chilled, ignited, and shocked an enemy recently, which we can do all of those things, giving us a boost of 60% increased elemental damage. It is very nice node to have. Also, Calamicious Vision to add the Lone Messenger. This is very helpful because we only have sufficient mana to use 1 Herald anyway, and since we use the Herald of Ash, we can gain 50% more effects of Herald buffs on us, which will increase our damage by a large amount. Another small cluster jewel that we use is a 3 passive skills with 1% chance to block spell damage and the Mage Hunter passive. This is very nice because we get some block spell damage, but also Mage Hunter gives us 4% chance to block spell damage, some very nice increased spell damage as well, and the chance to gain power charge whenever we block. But this one is a bit useless because we use Elemental Overload anyway. It will just help us to proc our crits a lot more consistent, but it's not really the best thing here. The best thing is the block spell damage and the spell damage from the node. While you're leveling, this build is very, I would say, solo self-all friendly, starter friendly, because you don't actually need any gear to level. I level by using the ones that I was dropping from the leveling process itself, and I was using all the essences that added fire damage to spells in order to do some nice damage after I got the Volatile Dead and the Desecrate and the Spellslinger in the Act 3. And Spellslinger has a very interesting thing that I really liked about this skill. As you can see at the bottom, it says supported skills have added spell damage equal to X% of damage of equipped one. That modifier there varies from 50 to 100%. It really depends on the Spellslinger gem's level. But what it does basically is that all the modifiers that would add to attacks, it also adds to the spell damage itself. So for instance, if you can have some added fire damage that would usually add to the attacks, it now applies to the Volatile Dead in this case. So what you could do is to craft your own ones by using also the Essence of Anger, for example, which adds lots of fire damage for the build. What I did during the leveling was using the essences, not only the fire damage to spells, but also of anger to add fire damage to attacks, for example. You can use both of essences to increase your damage by a lot. And our end game endgame weapon here. I use an Imbued Wand, item level 84, and I was using the Deafening Essence of Anger, which is the last tier of this kind of essence, to then hoping for a nice increased fire damage roll or spell damage roll and anything else that could add up on our damage with an open suffix. With the open suffix, you can craft the trigger sucked spell when you use a skill gem, which is very nice also to proc the Bone Offering to help you with the block properties, and also Wave of Conviction linked to Combustion to increase the enemy's fire resistance even further. Spellslinger has a interesting mechanic as well regarding the trigger mechanic, and this is why we get the disenchant right there. Skills supported by Spellslinger have 30% increased cooldown recovery speed. This helmet basically, apart from the enchant, it has some nice dexterity, life, and resists. It obviously doesn't need the multi-mod, but all the mods that you could have are maximum life, resists, and some dex if you can to help you with the dexterity gems requirement. But an interesting thing to have in mind is that the tick rate of the server is usually, I'm not really, I don't deeply understand how the server functions. I'm not in this sort of knowledge, but as I've looked into Reddit, in the Reddit you can look up in a post where they calculate the synergy between the tick rate, the cooldown calculations of Path Exile, and then they were talking about the Spellslinger calculation, increased cooldown recovery speed, and another guy posted a comment talking about a spreadsheet that he made in order to help out the effects of increased cooldown speed linked to your attack speeds, character's attack speed, in order to know how much attack speed you actually need in order to make your increased cooldown recovery speed investment actually worth it. So I will show guys right now what I'm talking about regarding this spreadsheet. So this is the spreadsheet that I was talking about just now. In this case here, in this square, you can see that cooldown time skill is 0.5, which is the skill cooldown time of the Spellslinger. And apart from all the calculations that those guys in Reddit do, all you need to know is that this column right here tells you how much investment of cooldown reduction you're actually putting into your character, and this is the attack speed equivalent that your character should have in order to make this investment worth it. So for example, if we have the increased 30% increased cooldown reduction as we do in our helmet, we actually need a attack speed equivalent of 2.53 to make this investment worth it. You can gain 30% on the helmet, and with your belts and the boots you can get an additional 35%. So the maximum you could have, for example, in this build is 65% increased cooldown reduction, which makes us a need of attack speed of 3.03 per second. My builds, the way I build my guides, are in a way that they are not fully min-maxed, but if you're looking to a full min-max build, you actually need to have this in mind. So if you want to have a 65% increased cooldown reduction, you'll need to have an attack speed of 3.03%, attack speed of 3.03 per second. The way that I get it, this is usually the time that the servers take to do all the calculations needed regarding the cooldown reduction investment in your character and the attack speed equivalent that your character should have. Getting to the less nerdy stuff, we have this shield, this surrender. This shield is usually used on many block builds because it gives us some nice life, recover 250 life when we block, some chance to block, some armor when you block recently. These reckoning skills also is a counter attack. Whenever we block, we do this. We use this skill against the enemy, but this can easily be replaced by another shield that actually adds some block damage, block spell damage, for example, or gives you +1 to spell skill gems, fire skill gems. It's really up to you what you're gonna build up when looking for your shield. I chose also a Zoph's Blood because it gives us some increase in the maximum life, the damage pen, and makes the enemy be covered in ash, which increases our damage. For the Anointment, we use the Arcane Swiftness. It is good to increase our spell damage because it's based on the chance to block attack damage, so very nice damage boost right there. Some people, I was looking into some profiles and they use Divine Judgment as well because it gives us some damage pen, increase elemental damage, increase the effects of non-damaging ailments, and it's cheaper. So there goes a cheaper option for you. What makes this build expensive are those Circle of Anguish rings, because the implicit are not that important. What's most important here is the buffs that are on these explicit nodes, explicit modifiers. Both of the rings have increased the Herald of Ash buff effect, but you can see that one has increased fire damage and the other has reduced mana reservation of Herald of Ash. In this ring we've used the life and mana catalyst to reduce the mana reservation even further, and on this ring we've used the turbulent catalyst, the elemental damage catalyst, to increase the fire damage that we have when we are affected by the Herald of Ash. This also makes a very nice synergy because of the Lone Messenger node with this cluster geo right there. The chest itself, this was the Impulsa that people were asking me to play. Very fun chest to play. Gives us some life, the increased damage if we've shocked an enemy recently, which we do every time we spawn in the corpse, thanks to the Corpse Pact Ascendancy. It also gives us increased effect of shock and makes the enemies that are shocked explode, dealing 5% of their life as lightning damage. Very nice chest right there, very fun to play as well. The gloves are basically life resists, and if you can, you want to get a increased damage with hits against chill enemies. This is a different modifier that drops from the Alta temple, and if you have an open prefix, you can craft the minions deal increased damage because we have the spiritual aid node right there. Also, Dex is interesting since we need a few Dex to for our Dex gem requirements. Our belt right here is basically the same. Some life resists, and since it has an open prefix, I crafted increased damage. The boots basically the same as well. It has movement speed, some life, and resists. The Abyss Duo here is one with life, increased chance to gain onslaught and chance to gain phasing to make our mapping a lot more comfortable. The Flasks here is a Divine Life Flask, a Rummy's Concoction Granite. The most important role here is the chance to block spells, because we have plenty of chance to block attack damage already on the build, so make sure to buy NT% one. The Wise Oak here, it's a very nice flask as well to build our damage up if your Fire Res is the highest one, and also obviously you can get a 50% roll right there. The Sulfur Flask helps us to build our damage even further with the increased damage as well, and the Quicksilver for our movementation. Talking about the gems now, like I told you before, the Bone Offering, Wave of Conviction, and Combustion should be linked in your wand because they will be triggered whenever we use a skill. So for example, if we use a Molten Shell, those skills will be procced, as you can see, or if you attack, also the Wave of Conviction right there. Now we have Herald of Ash linked to Spellslinger, Desecrate, and Spell Cascade. Now this is very important because the Spellslinger skill respects the trigger mechanic. So you need to, if you have multiple trigger effect gems or multiple trigger setups, they need to respect the trigger mechanic order. So for example, as we use the Volatile Dead, the Desecrate setup needs to be in one of the equipments that are before the Volatile Dead Spellslinger setup, because if they are, and if they are respecting the trigger mechanic, we will then spawn the corpses first and then cast the Volatile Dead afterwards. So Helmet must have the Spellslinger, Desecrate, and Spell Cascade setup, because it's before the chest. If you see right there on your monitor, the trigger effect order. Okay, so this will make the corpses spawn before the Volatile Deads are cast. So we also have Flame Dash, Arcane Surge, and a Portal. Arcane Surge should be level 1, so you can have the benefits of Arcane Surge. We also have Volatile Dead Spellslinger, Hypothermia, Conk Effect Spellslinger, Control Destruction, and Spell Cascade. We also have Frenzy, Barrage Support, Elemental Weakness, and Curse on Hit. This could also be Flammability if you prefer. And Frenzy with Barrage Support makes us gain also Frenzy charges whenever we hit the enemy. So it's very nice. We also have a Castle Damage Taken setup with Tempest Chill. This will add even more block spell damage. And also Bone Offering should be level 21, because it will give us another +1 chance to block spell damage as well. So we have a Castle Damage Taken, Tempest Shield, Increase the Duration, and Molten Shell. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get the desired 11k armor, so feel free to replace this with a Steel Skin if you want. So that's basically it. Overall speaking, this is a very nice build to play. If our Bone Offering is level 21, and if we take damage and cast the Tempest Shield, our block damage goes from 75/64 up to 75/68, which means a lot of block damage. And also, if you replace this shield as well, probably you will be able to cap all your block damage. But usually when I play a build, I don't play with block, and I don't have many builds that I play don't have that much life. So playing this build with that much block, that much life, it was very, very nice to play, very comfortable. The clear speed felt awesome with the Impulsa and the synergy with the Ascendancy, because we chill and shock the enemy every time basically. So very nice build to play. This build, the investment of it was around 15 to 17x, I would say. The most expensive part are the Circle Vanquish rings, and as I've told you before, this is clearly possible to start a league with, and even play solo self-found if you want, because of the how easy it is to build up the damage. Because if you see the Volatile Damage, explosions deal base fire damage equal to 3% of the corpse's maximum life. So very nice way to build your damage up. Basically it builds automatically if you think about it. So very nice to play, very easy going, because you basically press one button to attack all the time, and then you have another off defensive which you are moving, another one to move yourself. And considering the damage, it's not a one-shot build, but considering your defensive layers, I think it's a very nice build to play, and I had tons of fun with it. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you much for watching, and see you next time. What's this? A real challenge? Au. É tanta bola no chão, cara. É, o Borrow Faith dá um pouquinho de increase damage sim, mas não precisa, né? No need Exile.
The others found strength in their projections. They became reliant on it. And not so foolish.
Why run? What's the point?
Why fun? What's the point? Gastar os mirrors na build? Mas se eu gastar o dinheiro aqui, a galera não faz a build, pô. Os caras vão falar muito caro.
I need more mana.
This city is nothing. Obliteration.
You yet see the futility of your efforts.
Beyond, there is only horror. This city is nothing.
Eu tenho a sensação que... Será que é porque eu tô acostumado a jogar com outro personagem? Porque parece que aumentou o zoom? Ou será que é porque é o Witch pequenininho? E eu nunca jogo de Witch?
Obliteration. Non-existence. Everlasting fire. Is everlasting fire.
Feel the thrill of
Aboard. Everlasting fire.
Funciona pra build, hein?